So today we're going over the Chapter 10 test we took and reviewing for the quiz. So the first thing we have is volume and surface area. So I've got that. So Daniel, what is the formula for volume?
Base times height.
Base times height, exactly. Now you might not be used to seeing it, you might see it another way. How else might you see it, Daniel?
Length times width.
Perfect. So you might see base is length times width. So the whole thing would be length times width times height. Both of these are correct. So then let's see. So then in this case, for volume, what's our length? Who would like to tell me length? Perfect. Daniel says length is 10. Excellent. Who would like to tell me what width is? Excellent. Romario says 7. Perfect. And then, what about the last one? What is our height? Excellent, Gore. It's 4. But I thought that 7 was the height, and maybe 10's the width, and 4 is the length. What? Does it matter? No. It does not matter. Exactly, Miles. Exactly, Izzy. It does not matter. When you're doing addition and multiplication, the order doesn't matter. Now, so here, 10 times 7 is 70. Then, 70 times 4. Who can tell me what 7 times 4 is? Perfect. Gore says 7 times 4 is 28. And since 70 has a 0 at the end, it ends up becoming 280. It's the easiest way you can do it in your head. It's got a 0 at the end. Essentially here, same thing. 28 times 10, or in this case, 40 times 7. Any of those ways work. So for our volume, what we get is 280. Now, on the test, it was important that you didn't put down the units or any of that because the test wouldn't register. But what would the units be in this case? 280 watts. Perfect. Miles says inches, but what else? We're missing one important thing. Yeah, exactly, Miles and Gore. It's inches cubed. And I like to think about it because for two reasons. One, this is technically a cube. It's a rectangle. It's close to a cube. And two, it's a three-dimensional shape. It's a three-dimensional shape. So as such, it's cubed. So now we've got our surface area. What's the formula for surface area? This formula is a little bit more intense. So the surface area, we are now counting everything that's on the outside, all of that. We're not counting what's on the inside, unlike with volume. Volume is what fills up the entire square or circle or anything. It's volume of a liquid. So for surface area, we're literally just counting the area of the surface. What was the area of a surface normally? What's just the area of a square? What's the square area? I'll give you a hint. What's my area gonna be? Yes, perfect, Gore and Miles. It is length times width. So all we're going to do for each of these sides is do length times width. And a couple of you have already given me the answers. Some of you gave me 28 for up here. Some of you gave me 70 for down here. And as such, other people gave me 40 for this. Awesome. So I add all of these together, right? And I get 138. Awesome, right? And that's my answer. Gore says multiply by 2. Why do I need to multiply by 2? Come on, I just did all of this math. Ugh, Gore's making me do stuff. Why do I have to multiply by 2? Exactly. Daniel answers for me that there's 2 of each side. Daniel and Gore say we have to multiply by 2, and Miles says it's the right thing to do. Well, it is the right thing to do, but how do we know we have to multiply to 2? Why do we know we have to multiply by 2? We know we have to multiply it by 2.
Because you have one side, like the front and the back.
Yes. So we have 2 of each of these sides. So we see it's very hard to kind of tell. I'm trying to do my best to make it so you guys can see it. It's kind of messy, but we have 2 of each side. Think about that. How many sides does a rectangular prism have? How many sides does a rectangular prism have, Kyle?
6.
6, exactly. So what our technical formula is it is 2 times, and then we've got length times width, I'm going to make my L better, plus 2 times length times height, plus 2 times width times height. Those are the exact things. And the reason is for our rectangles. These are for rectangles. That we have 2 of each side. And for each side, we're doing that length times width and or length times height. So in this case, like I said, we did it all. We found out that one of the sides was 70, one is 28, and one is 40. So I'm going to make it easy. We found that's 138. I want to multiply it by 2. 138 times 2. What is 138 times 2? Perfect. Yes, Melanie. Yes, Gore. It is 276, which is our answer. And let's say that we were just doing it here. We want to fill this out again here. 2 times length times width. 2 times, and let's just say our length is the 10 and our width is the 7. Then we've got 2 times 10, and we'll say our height is 4. Then we've got 2 times, and we know our width was 7 and our height was 4. It's the exact same thing if you want 2 times 70, 2 times 40, 2 times 28, or 2 times all of them together. Exactly the same thing. So what we get for this answer is we get 276. Perfect. And in this case, what is our type of unit here? This is kind of cool. What's the type of unit that we're dealing with surface area? Yes, Gore, it is inches squared. But I thought this was a 3-dimensional shape. Oh my gosh, why is it squared? Yes, exactly, Gore and Daniel. The surface area is 2-dimensional. Just like area in general, area is only 2-dimensional. We just happen to have a lot more of this area. So let's do this one again. Find the volume and the surface area. So I want you guys to do this on your own, and then I'm going to call on hands. Perfect. So both Gore, Kyle, and I'm sure others said our volume is going to be 72. And you get that by literally multiplying all the numbers you see. 2 times 3 times 12. This is 6 times 12. 6 times 12 is 72. Finding volume should be very easy. It's pretty much just straightforward multiplication. Surface area. We follow that same formula. 2 times. And now here's the important part. We want to see each number twice. Just like we would see each variable, length times width times height. We would see that twice. So let's check it. For here, they all say that it's 132. Let's check. 12 times 3 is 36. 36 times 2 is 72. 12 times 2 is 24. Times 2 is 48. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. I like to combine things that make it easy because look, that has a 2 and that has an 8. So 48 plus 12 becomes 60. So if I'm adding this together, I get that being 60 plus 72. And I know here 7 plus 6 is 13. So I know it's 132. So yes, they are both correct. Remember, in each of these cases, you see that number 2. So you want to see each of these numbers twice. See how we see each of the inside numbers twice? Excellent. That's how you know what you're doing. What about this one? Here, I already have my volume, right? So I need to find what my height is. I don't know what my height is. How do I find my height? Excellent. Melanie says divide. So let's see. Olivia, what would we be dividing?
Oh, so what I will do is times the base and width and then divide it by 660.
Perfect. So you did base times width. What is base times width?
Base times width is 55.
Perfect. So it's technically length times width because our base is that bottom. But yeah, so she did 5 times 11 and she got 55. And then she said she's going to divide that by 55. Perfect. Same exact thing goes. We know our volume is equal to length times width times height. We already have our volume, 660. Then we have our length. Let's say it's 11. Then we have our width. We'll say it's 5. And then we have our height. What is that key term? What is that term that we always want to do? Yes, Miles, we want to isolate the variable. So yet again, it's exactly like a lot of you guys were saying. Here, this 11 times 5 is 55. So we're going to divide by that 55 on each side. Now, what is 660 divided by 55? Who would like to tell me? Excellent. I actually see it up there. Gore says 12. Excellent. So our height is 12. Now this again should be pretty simple. We see our surface area. So I'm going to do it like this. We got our 2, 2, 2. I literally just automatically know this is my formula. And then I'm going to do length times width times height. So each 2 of them have 11s. 2 of them have 12s. And they can't obviously be the same one. They can't be identical. And then lastly, 2 of them have 5s. So we see all of that set. Here, if we filled all of this out, 2 times 11 times 5, 11 times 5 is 55, times 2 is 110. 12 times 5 is 60, times 2, we get 120. 11 times 12, 11 times 11 is 121, plus another 11 is 133. Times 2 is 266. So I feel like I'm wrong. Perfect, it's 264. I was wrong. Thank you so much, Emmett. 11 times 12 is 132. Times 2 is 264. Excellent. We add these all together. This one gives me 330 plus 264. And in the end, it's 240. Man, I can't count today. It's 230. In the end, what I get is 494. So, my total surface area in the end, as many of you guys wrote, is 494. So make sure you know that formula for surface area because it's incredibly important. Here. Now I need to do that exact same thing. I need to find the length and the surface area. On your test, I allowed you to use calculators. But if I didn't allow you to use calculators, and I'm going to do all of the work for you in the beginning, but you use your calculator to confirm. Now, 12.5, what is that as a decimal? I want it as a decimal, and I want it as an improper fraction. So give me each of these as a decimal and as an improper fraction. Perfect, so we went. Olivia and Gore helped us out here. Let's see what the improper fractions as well are for our decimals, okay? Take a time for that. So we got several answers going on, which is really, really right. Kyle, what do you say?
Um, 5.2.
So, he says that his length is 5.2, which is correct. Exactly. 18 3/4. If we made this into an improper fraction. And the reason we need to make it into an improper fraction is we cannot multiply mixed numbers and whole numbers and anything like that by hand. We just cannot multiply that by hand. So 18 3/4 would give us 75/4. And then this giant one here, 1218 times 4 plus 3 is going to give me 4 0.875, and we always keep our denominator. Now, if we want to use our calculators here, what we want to do is we've got our volume, 1218.75. Then we're going to divide it by our other two numbers because we know that we want to isolate that variable. Our length is 12.5. Our height is 18.75. And then we have our actual length there. So we want to divide it by each of those. When we divide it, yes, we get 5.2. And as such then, for our surface area, what would our surface area be? Yes, Melanie, she got 793 and 75 hundredths. Exactly. If you use your calculator, I included a calculator on the test. Honestly, it's more important for me that you know the steps. Remember, she did the exact same thing. 2 times 18.75 times 12.5, and she did it for all of those other ones. We know our formula. So, I want you guys to work on this one. You're going to find the width and the surface area, and I'm going to check back with you guys. Kyle, what did you get for width? I'm looking at the chat, and a lot of people are getting this right. Excellent. So we do that division, and we find out our width is 2.2. So if you're following this, what it is it's 264, and then we divide it by 12, and we divide it by 10, and that's going to be equal to our width. What we did is we isolated, because it's 264 equals 12 times 10 times W. 12 times 10, that's 120. So we want to divide each side by 120. When we use our calculators, we get our width is 2.2. So as such, what would our surface area... Excellent. So we get our width is 2.2. And then as such, what do we get as our surface area then? Let's see. Perfect. Yes, Gore. So what we get is we get 336 and 8/10. So that's what we're going to get as our answer for this problem. So we're going to take a second, and I want you guys to look at this one. So I want you to take your chance and see how you would do on this. I want you guys to see if you could solve this. So take some time and don't write it in the chat yet. Excellent. So as Marcus said, our rule with triangles is that it's half of it. So our volume is equal to 1/2 length times width times height, and or base times height. Same thing. Now, here I've got 4 different numbers. I got 16, 12, 10, and 20. And I have to figure out which 3 I care about, because I obviously care about length times width times height. So let's see what we're saying. I want to see the numbers that we care about. Exactly. Gore says we care about 10, 12, and 16. And he's correct. Who can explain why we care about those numbers and why we don't care about 20? Why don't we care about 20? Yes, Daniel.
Because 20 is not length, width, or height.
How do we know it's not length, width, or height? Someone might look at that and go, oh, that's definitely height. Look, it's going up, right? Height. So how would we know? There's something about forming something. Let's see. So, Izzy, what do you think?
It's because all of them are on the right angle side, while the other one isn't.
They all form right angles. 16 and 12 form a right angle. Here you can't see it, but 12 and 10 form a right angle. And that 16 and 10 form right angles. Do we see that? We see how they all form right angles? Now, 20 does not form a right angle with any of these shapes, because here's the angle that it forms there, and here's the angle it forms there. That is not a right angle with any of the other lines that we would care about. At most, congrats, we got one right there, but we need them to all be forming right angles. So we fill this out. Volume is equal to 1/2. We got our length. It doesn't matter which is which. 12, got our width. 10, we got our height. 16, I always try to keep the height to be about the same thing, but we've got that. So we multiply. I also like to make things easy for myself. 1/2. 12 times 10 is 120. Half of 12 is 6. So half of 120 is 60. So I've got 60 times 16. Here's my other hint that I like to do. When I'm multiplying, normally I put the bigger number at top, but do you see how I have this one that starts with a 0? That means this entire thing is going to be 0. So I skip that entire step, and I just magic 0 that. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2. We get that. So we get our answer to be 320. Now, am I correct here so far? What happened? Am I correct? I know I'm not correct because I'm doing 20. It is 60 because I don't pay attention. So 6 times 6 is 36. This is making more sense. Don't make mistakes like me. Use your calculator. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. So for my volume, I get 960. So now I care about my surface area. Here's a good thing to think of. Most of time in math, they don't give you too many numbers for extra. They don't give you too many numbers just for the fun of it. So we're probably going to be using all of our answers. How many sides does this shape have? Who would like to raise their hand and tell me how many sides this shape has? Perfect. Kyle says 5 sides. Side number 1. Side number 2. Side number 3. Side number 4. And side number 5. Now, 2 of our sides are actually identical. We see these sides. This side right here is identical to that side right there. And that's an important rule when we're dealing with prisms. Those would be the bases, but how do I know those are my bases? Just because they've got identical sides? Because as we know, rectangles have all sorts of identical sides. But how do we know what 2 are going to be our bases? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with the way they are positioned to one another. Yes, Olivia.
Aren't the 2 identical sides the bases?
The 2 identical sides are our bases. They can be our bases. Yes, exactly. That matters. And what we know is they are parallel to one another. If you decided to stab them with a pencil, it'd go straight through both of them perfectly. So our formula for this one, what we need to do is we've got 5 sides. If we're finding the surface area, we need to find the area of all of the sides. So here, we've got the 5 different sides. Let's look at this side first. We have 1/2 of 16 times 12. But how many of those sides do I have? How many of those sides? Perfect. Yes, perfect. Dominic said there are 2 sides. Excellent. Messing me up. We got that from Kyle. We got that from Olivia. We got that from Dominic. There are 2 of those sides. So I've got 2 times 1/2 times 16 times 12. Like I said, 2 times 1/2 is 1, but I want to make my life even easier. Here, I'm going to make it 2 times 8 times 12, because that's a lot easier. Although, then I'm just back to that 16 again. But at least I could do it in a better way. However you want to do it, totally works. So now I've covered 2 of my sides. Those are 2 of my sides right there. Now, let's do some of the other sides. Here's another side right there. My length times width is 10 times 20. Perfect. It's 10 and it's 20. Excellent. Now we've got 2 other sides, because here we've got 1 side, 2 sides. We've got 2 sides, 3 sides, and 4 5s and 6 sides. So this side right here, this one is 10 times 12. Look at that, right? And then we've got our last side here, which is 16 times 10. It's important if you try to imagine this length is 10, so this length is 10. We see all of that. So if we're adding all of these up together, 160, 120, 200. Don't feel like doing it, so 16 times 12 gives me 192. I have all of these sides, and now I have to add them all together to find my surface area, just like normal. So when I add them all together, what do I get? Excellent. Yes, I get 672. So make sure you know how to add all of these sides together. So let's look at another one here. So I've got another triangular prism. This one looks a little bit different than the last one though. How many sides do I have in this triangular prism? I want everyone to hold up the number of fingers. How many sides? Perfect. Everybody who answered 5, there are 5 sides. There is side 1. There is side 2. There is side 3. There is side 4. And there is side 5. So triangular prisms have 5 sides, and rectangular prisms have 6 sides. So let's see. Volume. When we know this, it's a triangle, so it's going to be 1/2. But we're still following our same thing. Length times width times height. So just to go through, let's say it's 1/2. Our length is 8. Our width, right? So we've got our width is 12 and our height is 3. Length, width, height. Doesn't matter. So we have all of that to find our volume. Now, like I said, I want to make my life easy for me. 8 times 6 times 3. So then I've got, let's see, 48 times 3. I'd figured that'd be the easiest way, but whatever. And what do we get then as our volume? Yes, Kyle, we get 144. Now, for our surface area, we're following that exact same thing as last time. So we have our 2 bases. With our 2 bases, so now we're going to try to find the surface area of this. What we already know is that we've got 2 of these triangular sides. And we know to find the area of a triangular side, it's 1/2 length times width. So those are these 2 sides. Let's find our next side. Here's this side. Who can tell me what numbers I'm multiplying to find that side? What numbers am I using? Yes, Melanie, we are using 12 and 8 because 12 is this length and we know our height up just right there is 8. So for this side right here, we have 12 times 8 as our area. Hey, look at that. Don't we have an exact matching side on the other one too? Exactly. So we'd have another 12 times 8. And then what's our bottom side equal to? That side that we haven't counted yet. What's that equal to? Perfect. Another 12 times 8. So as we know here, that means it was an equilateral triangle. We just have that 12 times 8, 12 times 8, 12 times 8. 2 sides, 3, 4, 5. And we know that there's a total of 5 sides. Here, our length times our width was 8 times, and technically our width is whatever, the 3, because it's our height, that's how we do it. That's how it works. 2 times 1/2, that's gone. Here we get 24. As Gore said too, we get 96 for each of these. The easiest way, 3 times 96 is 288. And then if I add 24, I'm going to get 312. So all surface area is a lot of light multiplication and then some addition. So here's another one like this. We have the volume and the surface area of this shape. Once again, everybody should be a master of this by now. How many sides do we have? Hold up your fingers. How many sides do we have for this shape? Yes, we have 5 sides. Thank you, everybody. You guys all did really, really well. So we have this base side here, 1. We got 2 of these identical sides, 2, 3. We got this top side, 4. And then we got this side, 5. So we got 5 sides here. So I want to find each side. We got these 2 identical triangle sides. So our 2 identical triangle. That's what you should think of. 2 And triangle is going to be the 1/2. Triangle's 1/2. Then we got 24 times 7, right? How do I know it's not 25? I have a 25 over here. Why do I know it's not 25? Perfect. Melanie said 25 does not form a right angle. Exactly. These two do. So now for our next side, we've got this here. The two numbers we're using are 22 and 25. So side number 3, 22 times 25. Side number 4. Who would like to give me the side numbers for side number 4 and for side number 5? Perfect. So as we see for our other sides, we get 22 and 24, and we get 22 and 7. Notice we see each of these numbers again, right? We have 22 and 24, those form it. Then we have 22 and 7, those form it. So that's how we get it. And we want to add all of these up together. So, like I see this, we see 24 times 7 because these two cancel out. But we know that's our formula is 168. Then we've got 22 times 25, or 24 times 20. Let's see. 22 times 25 is 550. 22 times 24 is 528. And 22 times 7 is 154. Now I use my big brain calculator to add them all together. And when I add them all together, I manage to get... What do I manage to get when I add them all together? Perfect, Jaden. You got for surface area 1,400. Don't be dying. Perfect. So that's how we find our surface area. What it was it was 2 times the base times height of a triangle, which AKA is 1/2 of technically length times height or length times width. Remember, they don't necessarily matter. Plus the area of side 1 plus the area of side 2 plus the area of side 3. So we have that as our answer. This is what our formula essentially looks like. This is our two triangular sides, side 1, side 2, side 3. That's what our formula looks like. So then, if we were trying to find volume, however, again, what do we know as our rule with triangles? Whenever you see a triangle, this should be your first thought. It applies to almost every triangle. What's our rule with triangles?
Triangles?
What's the rule with triangles, Emmett?
Divide by 2.
Excellent, yes! So with triangles, you divide by 2 and or multiply by half. Volume, we follow that same formula. Length times width times height, right? Do we care about that 25? No, that one doesn't form a right angle with our length times width times height. So here we've got 1/2. Our length is 24. Our width is 22. And our height is 7. Excellent. I'm going to cancel those out. I get 12 times 22 times 7. Once again, I am just going to use my calculator because I don't mind if you guys use it because you still have to know what you do. You still have to know. So Melanie, let me get you. What'd you get for volume, Melanie? Perfect, Melanie. So you got 1,848. I unmuted you. You could have said it out loud. Now, on a side note, I went back and fixed this. Some of the things that you guys did on your test was you wrote, like, for example, Brendan. I'm not meaning to call you out, but Brendan got this answer correct. However, he put a comma here, which made it marked incorrect. Okay? But that's why I always go back through and check, okay? Because just one little comma can throw everything off. It's terrible. So, let's see. So here we know we have a triangle right here, which means that we automatically think that 1/2. And we know our volume formula is volume equals 1/2 times length times width times height. What we're trying to do is we're trying to isolate the length. So we need to find that length. So here, we know our volume is 49 is equal to 1/2. We don't know our length yet, but we know our width is going to be 7. And what's our height? Is our height this 4 or is our height that 3.5? Because they're both going up. So which one's our height? Yes, it's 3.5 because that's the one that forms a right angle. It is not slanting. It's that. So then we have this. All I want to do is divide. I want to divide this whole thing. So if I'm dividing by 1/2 times 7 times 3.5. I'm literally just dividing by all of that. 7 times 3.5 is 24.5 divided by 2. We get 12.5. Thank you, girl, for pointing. I'm messing up. Let me go back. I figured out what I'm doing wrong. This is not included yet. Let's do it like this. Let's see what we're doing. So our volume is 49, right? What we know that is it's going to be 1/2 of our length times, let's do this one first. It's going to be 1/2 of our length times our height. What we know times our, oh yes, I see exactly what I did. Times our width. So what we don't know is our length. 49 is equal to 1/2 times. We know that our height is 3.5. Then we know here that this one, our width is 7. I'm just going to divide this as we go. 49 divided by 7 is equal to 1/2 times 3.5 times length. So 1/2 times 3.5 gets me 1.75 length equals 7. So if I divided 7 by 1.75, if I divide each side by 1.75, my length is equal to 4. So I did the same thing. I just did my math a little bit messed up. I'm not quite sure how I messed up my math, mostly because I'm tired. Now, so we've already found what our length is. So now we just need to find the surface area. I'm going to run through this one really quick. If you want, watch the video and pause. The reason I'm running through it quick is it's the same thing we've done for all of them. So our formula is 2 times, it's a triangle. So 1/2, because there's 2 of these sides. 1/2, I'm just going to say of length times height. Then we've got the 3 sides. The 3 sides, we have 7 times 4. So we got 7 times 4, that's side number 3. The next side that we have here is 4 times 7. I know another one. 7 times 4, because this height right here is 4. And then as such, our last side is also 7 times 4. 7 times 4. Again, I'm lazy. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to multiply this by 3. I'm going to use my calculator. My height was 3.5. My length was 4. So this cancels to be a 1. 4 times 3.5. 4 times 3.5 is 14. 7 times 4 is 28. Times 3 gives me 84. If I add these together, my surface area is 98. So I believe this is the last one of our triangular prisms. I'm going to go through this quickly. If I'm finding my length, do I care about the 13 or the 12 as my height? So in the chat, do I care about the 13 or 12? Because they're both heights. They're both going up. Yes, Leanne, we care about the 12 because it makes a right angle. So here, if we're finding our length, we know our volume is equal to triangle 1/2 length times width times height. Let's see if I can get it done without messing up. 240 is equal to 1/2 times, we don't know our length, times our width, 5, times our height, 12. So now I'm just going to divide by them. 240 divided by 12 divide by 12. I divide each side. Gives me 20 is equal to 1/2 times my length times 5. Now I'm going to divide by 5. This gives me 4 equals 1/2. That's supposed to be a half times length. If I divided by 1/2, just as a side note, 4 divided by 1/2. I can't necessarily divide fractions all that easily. So what is it that I'm going to do? I love saying this. What is it that I'm going to do? Yes, Daniel, I Kentucky Chicken Fried. I keep, change, flip. I KCF. So in this case, keep, change, flip. So I get 8. So my length here is equal to 8. And then I simply just fill out all the rest of my problems. So when I'm filling this out, I know that I have 2 times 1/2 of 12 times 5. That's this side, and that's this side. Then I'm going to draw this side right here. My length is 8. That height is 13. 13 times 8. Then here, I've got this bottom piece. That's 5 times 8. And then lastly, I have this side right here. And that is 12 times 8. We see all of that excellence happening right here. So this becomes 6. 6 times 5 is 30 times 2 is 60. 13 times 8. Once again, I'm lazy. I'm just going to do 8 times 13. Gives me 104. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 12, I'm pretty sure is 96, if I'm right. Ooh, I am. Is 96. So, surface area. With area, we're going to add them all together. 60 plus 104 plus 40 plus 96 gives me the answer of 300. Yes, excellent work. So we add them all together. Here's something a little bit different now. Find the surface area. How many sides does this shape have? So it has 5 sides. We got side here, side number 1. We got this back side here, side number 2. We got this side here, side number 3. And we got this last side, side number 4. The way you can tell how many sides a shape has, look at that bottom part. It's a square. Squares have 4 sides, which means it's going to have 4 upper sides, and then we have to count that square as well. So we have 5 sides. With pyramids that we're dealing with now, they are all identical. So all of our pyramids are all identical. So for the pyramid with the square base, what we would have is we would have, for the base, for our base, we just have length times width, right? Awesome. That's just this area right here. But then we have to add these other things. Now, each side is identical. Each side is identical because this is 16 and our slant height is 17. This is 16, which means this is 16, which means this is 16. So they are all identical. That means that I can add 4 times. And we know that the amount, we see a triangle, 1/2, and then we know it is length times height. So let's fill this in. Length times width, 16 times 16. It's a square, so we don't need to do half. Then we've got times 4. Then we've got times half. We know our length already is 16, and we know our height is 17. Look at all of this addition / multiplication. So I'm going to call on people, and we're going to see things. Are we ready? Let me see. So, Romario, what is 16 times 16? What is the area of our square base at the bottom?
16 is, hold up. It's 256.
Perfect, 256. Now, we have 1/2 times 16. I'm just going to cancel that out. I've got 4 times 8 times 17. 4 times 8 times 17. Let's see. Kyle, what is it? What is 4 times 8 times 17? Perfect. It's 544. So now we've done all of this together, and we just have to add in order to get it. So 544 plus 256 gets us a nice even answer of 800. Excellent. Anytime you see a pyramid with a square bottom, when we see that, we know it's going to be just 4 times the area of each of our sides, because there are 4 identical sides. So let's look at this one. This one is unfolded. Pretty easy to tell. Right now what we have is we have a rectangular base. How many sides do we have in total? Leanne says 5, and Leanne is correct. We have 5 sides. So we need to find the area of each side. Are all of our sides identical? Excellent. Gore and Leanne say no, they are not. And they're correct, because this length is 12 and this length is 14. Plus this is 8 and this is 6. So that doesn't work. Let's break it apart piece by piece. So I'm going to do this part first. My length is 8 and my height is 6. So I've got 5 sides total. 1 side, 2 side, 3 side, 4 side, 5 side. Let's see. For my base, that's 6 times 8, which is 48. For side number 2, I'm just going to do this one. My height, it's a triangle, so I'm already just going to put 1/2 because all the rest are triangles, right? For all of this, what did we get? Melanie says she did 6 times 12. Excellent. That's exactly what we do. Hey, don't I have an exact identical one over there? Exactly. I could also write those as 2 times 1/2 times 6 times 12. Notice with multiplication, there's many, many ways that we can write the same thing. Same with addition. 2 plus 3 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 3 plus 2, which is the same as 2 plus 5 plus 3, which is the same as 3 plus 2 plus 5. All of these are the same thing. Then, for my other ones, I have 8 and 14. 8 times 14. 8 times 14, which these are the same as 2 times 1/2 times 8 times 14. Exact same thing. You can either find each of the 5 sides just like that, or you can identify that there are 2 pairs of sides. So you can see that there are 2 pairs of sides. So if I was to do this math, here I get 48. For this one, I want to solve it in the double way. I'm using this because 2 times half goes away. So I've got 6 times 12. That is 72. Here, again, this goes away. So I get 8 times 14. I just used my calculator. Don't think I'm doing it that fast. Is 112. Surface area. Area means add. We add them all together. 112 plus 72 plus 48. And the answer that it gives me is... What is the answer? Who can tell me? Excellent. 232. I'm sure Kyle and Melanie had it. So our surface area is 232. Now, here's a different shape. Still a pyramid, but this one's different. What is the base of this pyramid? The base of this one was a rectangle. Same here. Squares are technically rectangles. But what is the base of this one? Yes, Kyle.
It's a triangle?
It is a triangle. Melanie and Gore confirmed. So it's a triangle. Now, how many sides total does this shape have then? How many sides total? Yes, Gore and Kyle and Marcus, all of you got it. It is 4 sides. Once again, we know that because it's the base plus the number of sides that the base has. So it's the base, and the base has 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, a total of 4 sides. Or you can just look. Here's 1. Here's the back, 2. Here's the side, 3. Here's the front, 4. It looks like a kid's drawing. It's terrible. Same thing. I'm finding my surface area. So I just have to find the surface area of each of my sides. It's easiest if I break it into pieces. Here I've got a 4. And what's forming the right angle with a 4? What number is forming the right angle with that 4? Yes, Shiley is right. It's 4 and 3 and 1/10 because we see that here. That forms our right angle. So side 1, triangle, 1/2 times 4 times 3 and 1/10. They're all triangles. I'm just going to write my 1/2s here. Then this length is also 4 and this length is also 4. So now let's find my other sides. 4. They're all the same. So 1/2 times 4, 1/2 times 4, 1/2 times 4. And then I'm multiplying by the slant height. The slant height is the same for all of them. It is. That's 6. We know it's the same because all of our sides are identical. All of our sides are identical. It's an equilateral triangle. And when there are equilateral triangles, what we know is that we see that each of the slant height right here is 6. So each of that slant height here is going to be 6 because here's 4. Here's going to be 6 because here's 4. That back there's going to be 6 because there's 4. I know it's a little complicated to see drawing over these shapes. So here again, I've just got 4 times 6, 6, 6 as we see that. These 3 are all identical. So I've now got 1/2 times 4 times 3 and 1/10. And I'm going to add. I've got 3 identical things. So 3 times 1/2 times 4 times 6. Excellent. This becomes 2 times 3.1, 3 and 1/10. 2 and 3 and 1/10 gives me 6 and 2/10. Plus, I'm going to cancel actually out the 1/2 and the 6. Those are gone. So now I've got 4 times 3. That is 12 times 3. That is 36. So the numbers I'm adding are 36 and 6.2. When we add, we always line up the decimals. When we multiply, we always line up at the right side. Add up the decimals. We line up the decimals. 2, 2, 4. So our answer for this one, our answer is 42 and 2/10. So I want you guys to try this on a certain sheet of paper, on a separate sheet of paper. Once again, we know that we have an equilateral triangle. Each of the sides is 6, which means that our slant height, this one that's going up and down, our height, but it's at a slant, so it's called our slant height, is going to be identical for each of those 3 upper sides. But our slant height here is different. So I want you guys to format this for me and give me your answers when I say go. Perfect. So I'm going to go over this. We already know that we have 4 sides. 2, 3, 4. But we also know that because it's an equilateral triangle, these 3 are going to be the exact same because it's an equilateral triangle. If it wasn't equilateral, then that would not be the case. Maybe some of them would be this. Actually, always some of them are going to be the same. This first one is our base. We know our length is, first it's a triangle, so it's 1/2. Then our base, the length is 6, and our height is 5 and 5/10. So I'm going to cancel this out. I get 3. 3 times 5 and 5/10 gives me 16 and 5/10, I believe. Then we have these exact same. So I'm just going to write it out in this. We have 3 sides times 1/2. Our base, what we're doing right here with our highlighter, is 6, and our slant height is 10. So times 6 times 10. Cancel that out. I'll get a 3. 3 times 3 times 10 is equal to 90. When I add all of those together, as Kyle, Gore, Melanie, and Marcus all managed to post at almost the exact same time, we get 106.5, or 106 and 5/10. So I believe that we have one more of these problems. That's it. So we see that exact same thing. Because we just did that, I'm going to go through it for us. So we look at our base. It is an equilateral triangle. What that means is we're going to have one of the bases, and then we're going to have plus 3 times the other amount of bases because they are the exact same. So for our actual base, our bottom base right here, what I know is that this bottom part is equal to 8. So my first part is, it's a triangle, 1/2 times, and we know it's 8 times, and then my height is, that's 7, because it forms a 90-degree angle, times 7. My other sides, all of my other 3 sides, have a length of 8. We see all of that there, length of 8s. And our slant height, aka the height that we're dealing with, of 12. So, still a triangle. 1/2 times 8 times 12. I want to make my life easy. Here we go. It's a 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Here we go. Again, it's a 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 12 is 144. So I get 28 plus 144. So then what is my answer? Let's see, Gore. Yes, we get the answer of 172. So perfect. That's how we got this. I want to do some final review of the formulas that we have. So we already found the volume. Our volume formula. Who would like to tell me the volume formula? For these ones, I want hands raised. Riley, what's the volume formula for this shape? Romario, what's the volume formula for this shape?
Length times width times height.
Perfect. Length times width times height. Great job. Let's see. Daniel, what's the surface area for this one? So for this one, I'm just going to ask one more quick question before we go back to the surface area. How many sides does this shape have, Isis?
I know. So, wait, give me one.
Yes, Isis, it is 6. Perfect. It has 6 sides. Side 1, side 2, side 3, side 4, side 5, side 6. We know all of our 6 sides. So it has 6 sides. For rectangles, here's our formula for rectangular prisms. It's 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. As I said before, these 2's account for all 6 sides. And then we see each of these twice, length twice. We see our widths twice, and we see our heights twice. So we see that those are the formulas for doing the volume of a surface area, or the volume of a rectangle, the surface area of a rectangle, and that's how many sides a rectangle has. Make sure you have these notes. What about this one? I want to say, let's see. Marcus, how many sides does this shape have?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
5.
Yes, it has 5 sides. We see side number 1. We see side number 2. We see side number 3. We see side number 4. We see side number 5. Exactly. So it has 5 sides. Volume. What's our volume formula for this one then? Shiley. Shiley's ditching class. Let's see. Brendan. He wasn't ditching. She's back. What's the volume formula, Shiley?
The volume formula is 1/2 length times width times height.
Excellent. It's the exact same as a rectangle, except The difference is, since it's a triangle, it's 1/2. So, Kyle, what is the surface area formula for this?
2
Yes.
parentheses L times, length times height plus.
Now you're missing one part. It's a triangle, so don't forget the half.
1/2.
Exactly. Now what?
Length times width
Yep.
times 1/2.
Are there any other triangles though?
Oh, no.
No, so we don't need any more triangles. There's no more triangles. So we've got our length times width. Excellent. What else do we have?
Length times height.
Perfect. So we already did our length times height.
I meant width times height.
Let me see. I forgot to put it there, but yes, it's there. Plus width times height. That's our other height. And here's our other height again. Width times height. Typically, those are going to be identical. The way that you'd see this written. So, for example, if you were looking at a formula sheet, the way that you would see the formula written for a triangular prism would be the surface area is 2 times length times width, because it's while it does have, actually he was right, I think this one, so it's 2 times, I am right, so it was 2 times length times width times 1/2. Then we're gonna be adding, and this is important, area of side 1 plus area of side 2 plus area of side 3. We don't necessarily know, because if they're equilateral triangles, which most of the time they will be, it's going to be the exact same thing. But it's area of this side plus, so for example, if I was doing this, area of this side. Then I add area of that side. And then lastly, I add area of that side. So this would be my formula for how I would find surface area. I know it looks complicated, but remember, this is just dealing in terms of variables. What we're doing is we've got 2 times length times width times 1/2 because it is a triangle, plus area of side 1 because it's surface area, area of side 2, area of side 3. The only important things to remember, side 1, side 2, side 3. Are those triangular sides or are those rectangular sides? Who can tell me if those are triangular sides or rectangular sides? Excellent. So they are rectangular sides. So we don't even need to half them. We don't even need to do that. Yes, Brendan got it. Shiley got it. Excellent. Now, 2 more. Here's this one. We've got the surface area. Now, what I want to know, how many sides are there for this shape? So how many sides are there for this shape, Joey? Yes, thank you, Leanne and Marcus and Shiley. I didn't realize that you guys were all Joey. Our number of sides is 5. We know that exactly because our base has 4 sides, which means that we're going to have 4 sides plus that base. Now, our surface area. We've got our base. We already know that's going to be length times width. It's not a triangle, so it doesn't matter. Then I've got to add this. It is an equilateral triangle. I don't know if that's the proper term for it, but or equilateral rectangle. I don't know if, it's a square. I don't know what is wrong with me. It is a square. So, with it being a square, all of our sides are going to be exactly the same because they're going to have the same slant height and they're going to have the same length. They're all going to be the exact same. And how many more sides do we have? If this is one side and we have 5, how many more sides do we have? Exactly, since we already had 1 side and we have 5 sides total, we now have 4 more identical sides. Area of a triangle is 1/2 times length times height. So that is exactly going to be our formula for finding the surface area of a pyramid with 5 sides, a rectangular pyramid. Now our last shape here. Here is a pyramid with a triangular base. As such, how many sides does it have total. Everybody type it in the chat. Excellent. Every single person got it. There are 4 sides. Now, I'm going to also say this is an equilateral one. So my first side is going to be, and now I don't necessarily know. So my first side is going to be that 1/2 times length times width, which is actually going to be length times height of something else. So it's my length times height. It's a triangle, 1/2 length times height, plus, and then I'm going to have, again, 3 identical sides because I've got this side is identical, this side is identical, and this side is identical. But my slant height's probably different. Still triangles, 1/2. Still, times my length. Now I've got a different height. It's going to be my slant height for this, but I'm still just I'm going to call it my slant height. You might also refer to it as your height. So those are going to be the exact formulas that you need in order to understand how to do this problem. So those are all of your formulas that you need, every single formula. Now, based on this, you will be able to find the surface area, the volume, the number of sides, and the missing dimension for any shape that you get. I believe that this quiz is due April 2nd. It should be open soon enough, if not now. Make sure you review this video before you take the quiz, and good luck.